Good morning, everyone. This is Peter Boutros, and I got Sharif Hatab here on another episode of our podcast. And today we're going to be talking about what are the most negative things that agents can do to ruin their career immediately. Sharif, how you doing today?
Doing well, Peter. How are you?
Doing great. Great. So today's topic, Sharif, we're talking a little bit about some of the things that we see that agents do, especially after they hit a new milestone that ruins their career. And that's going to be a little bit about the pride cycle and staying humble. And have you seen this in your career, Sharif, that you've dealt with somebody that was doing really well and all of a sudden they got egotistic and kind of ruined their business overall?
I think we all go through this, Peter, at some time or another in our careers and our life. It's just something that's natural. And if you don't feel like you've ever done it, then you're currently in it. That's really what it is. You got to humble yourself and like come back to earth. And I see it all the time. I see it in myself. I see it with the agents around me. We just get overconfident at a certain point and we stopped being coachable. We stopped trying to figure out what the basics were that got us to where we are today. So definitely see it all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's one of those things where, especially after they get a few deals in or maybe the number of years, I feel like a lot of agents start talking down to other agents. And you'll see it across the other side if you're even if it's you're a buyer's agent or a listing agent. Usually, what is the first thing somebody usually says to try to boost, or put somebody down, right? Like you hear it all the time. I've been in this for how many, what?
How many years? I've
Yeah.
been doing this for so many years, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh man.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like the worst thing that you can start with because at the end of the day, we're on the same side. We all have the same destination, the same goal. I don't understand why agents get so combative when they're trying to get to the same goal at the end of the day. We both want to get the deal closed, and arguing or putting somebody down does not help that at all.
I know agents I feel like they're at war sometimes
Yeah.
with each other. We're technically, we're all coworkers, right? But we should all go back to the basics and understand that we are all working on this together. We have one common goal. We're not trying to battle each other. And it's a key element that you really need to think about and really focus on, because if you don't, then you fall into this deep trap and really deep pit, and you start to battle everyone around you, and that's really not how you want to be practicing real estate.
Yeah, I agree. So let's dive into more details. Like what does that pride cycle look like when a new agent starts? Obviously they come in very hungry, very coachable, and then they start gaining confidence. And so what do we typically see that gets in their head or ruins their career overall? And it's not just agents, right? It could be other professionals in the field, in any field really, because we see it across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's that comfortability factor. You start getting comfortable in yourself, start getting comfortable what you're doing, start to feel like that you know everything, and no one can ever tell you what to do or advise you on things to do better. You start breaking your habits of making the phone calls on a consistent basis because you're full of work right now, right? You're at the point where everything that you have done is actually harvesting now. So that's the problem, is people just fall into the cycle and then they start to forget about what they did to get them there. They get proud about themselves, and then they get into this high ground and start to harvest, not to do any of the things that got them to that place. And then they crash down, right? Things start to get harder because they didn't do those, daily habits that actually brought them to where they are. So that's really the key elements that puts you into that cycle. And it's key to remember that it's not about what you're doing today; it's what you did yesterday, right? That's what makes the results of today. So forgetting to do the things that you did every day is the key thing that's going to make you be unsuccessful in the future.
Agree more. And also, what I see a lot too is once they start seeing some momentum, it's like you can't give them feedback at all, right? So I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right? And everybody could use improvement. And no matter how much you succeed, there are still opportunities for feedback, coaching, and mentorship. And when you do provide feedback to certain people, they're not willing to take it in. They're no longer coachable. They want to say, well, I already know it all, or even worse, that they try to blame something else, either you or something else around them, and not owning their mistakes, or taking that feedback in a constructive way where they can see if there is something that they can do to better themselves.
For sure.
Yeah, and as far as also, staying humble, right? Like, humility is one of the key factors. And you and I just met a really good friend of us now recently, and we talk with a lot. And he's obviously, he does high volume in New Jersey here, Rob Dekansky, and you can tell how much he's open to sharing, and doesn't hold anything back, right? And it was really cool to see somebody like that with his caliber of business still staying humble. No, and he's almost like a celebrity in our market, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, it kind of reminds you that there are very select few people are like that, where you don't even meet them on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. It humbles yourself to see someone with that much success able to share so much. We've had, the luck of seeing multiple people like that, that are very successful, but yet very humble, and understand that, maybe they've gone through the cycle, multiple times where it's humbled them even more. And it really gives you an outlook on the business itself, where the more you share, the better you are. Right. And I love how, like, we've actually interacted with these people and how they've shared so much with us. And yet they're eager to learn themselves. Even at the positions that they're in with so many transactions, they're always learning. And that in itself, gives you, a great outlook of what you should be doing as well.
Yeah, and there's a quote I won't never forget. John Sheplak told me this before, and he said, everybody's superior than you. And he heard this by Tony Robbins, actually. And he said, no matter who's in the room, they could be doing less than you or more. They're still superior than you in something, right?
They
And
could, they could teach
that,
you something. Everyone is, everyone has a possibility of teaching you something.
yeah,
Someone knows more than you about something. It doesn't matter what it might be, but definitely you gotta have that outlook, right? I mean, that quote always sticks in my head too. And it's exactly that. He said that Tony Robbins said that: walk into a room knowing that everyone that you talk to is actually more knowledgeable than you about something, and you can learn from them about something. That's an amazing quote. I'm glad you brought that up, Pete.
yeah, it's so true too, because a lot of us will go into seminars or masterminds, and I see people just not interacting with everyone else in the room, only wanting to interact with the people that are doing really well. And just because they think nobody else can give them value other than the ones that are doing really well. But you just never know. You just have to be open to communicating with everybody, see what it is that they're doing well, what if there's anything that you can help with, and also contribution, right? If you are humble, you're gonna always want to contribute to your team, contribute to other people in the community, no matter what, without having to be asked to do anything. And that's what makes a really good team also. And I think you see this on your team a lot too, right?
Definitely doing that. And really, breaking that pride cycle is not hard, right? It's all about self awareness. It's almost like, for a better lack of analogy, like having, say, like a drug or alcohol problem. You got to recognize the problem first. So you got to recognize that you're in the cycle, and then kind of humble yourself at that point. And that's really the key to it, is just to understand where you're at and where you're trying to go, and just understanding that anything could change at any given time. And that's the key. It's really to understand that, everything could fall apart, and it does. So you have to prepare yourself for all that as well. And just keeping those daily activities consistent. Consistency is key. When you start to break consistency is when you start to fall into these type of cycles.
I agree percent. And when you said something about self-awareness, what are some of the things that you feel like a real estate agent should be self-aware of, especially as their business grows over time, or maybe some struggles that they do or mistakes that they do, like, and how can they become more self-aware?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pete. I mean, systemizing your lifestyle over being egotistical, right? Keeping consistent lead gen and follow up, is something it's crucial. It's a crucial habit you have to have in order not to fall into a sort of like, you know, certain pride cycle itself. It's really, no matter how successful you get, you still have to do those key elements. That's how it became successful. I say it over and over again. Um, basically, being accountable, keeping yourself accountable, keeping the people around you accountable. You can do that, by, masterminding if you're not on a team, just with like local agents. That's what I used to do before the team, right? Just keeping yourself accountable and always having gratitude, right? Being grateful for what you have. Like, one of the best things that you can do is, having that gratefulness and actually having that mindset where you're thanking for everything that you have first thing in the morning, right? That'll keep you out of becoming into that pride cycle as well, is just being grateful for what you have, not about what you're trying to achieve, but just being grateful for what you have today.
Yeah. I love that. And it's one of those things too, like you mentioned before on previous podcasts, is also keeping track, right? Like if you see your numbers are going down, that should trigger your self-awareness. There's something that I'm doing wrong that I need to improve on right away. And what's going right and what's going wrong. And also ask for feedback around you. If you don't see it yourself, ask a trusted mentor, a friend, or somebody that's on your team that can give you constructive criticism, that and take that in the right way and not competitive or defensively, to make sure that if there are certain things that they're saying are true, to make sure that you take action on. And that should be on a regular basis, because sometimes you won't see your own weaknesses. Sometimes you won't see the things that you're struggling with. You need somebody that kind of tells you these things, and they may recognize it before you do,
Oh,
right?
it's true. You gotta have those people. You gotta have, like, your structured network around you, no matter what it is, so that you can keep yourself accountable and someone's holding you to a higher standard, right? And just be humble enough to accept that criticism. That's one of the other key elements, is really the humility of yourself. You gotta humiliate yourself from time to time, just to be able to grow, right? It's one of the things that is very hard to come to terms with. In order to grow, you really have to be humble.
Yeah. And how do you balance that, being overconfident to also staying humble, right? Because obviously we talk a lot about, you having, anybody in sales has to have the confidence to be able to convert at a high level, but at the same time, how can they stay humble at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like to think of the not so good times, right? And remember what it felt like during those times, and just trying to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. I guess I'm the one that likes to think about the pain to avoid the pain. So that's really how I do it personally.
Yeah. No, and I like that, and it's so true. And the same thing, like remembering what mistakes you've done and not repeating them again. It's the same exact thing that you're saying, and for me too, it's just being confident in a situation where talking about my skill set in front of somebody that is maybe looking to interview, but not come egotistical, but also making sure that we put their wants and needs first. It's not like going to a listing appointment and bragging about how great we are. It's more about what is it that you're looking for that we can help you with. And then try to show some of the things that we can help them with by some of the experiences that we've done, or maybe other clients that we've helped the same way, and not having to just brag. It's not all about track record, trophies, and 5-star reviews. It's more about how can we help this person to go from point A to point Z? And same thing for real estate agents, right? It's not about like how great we are all the time. And this is why you need to work with us. What is it that you're struggling with right now that we can add value at, right? Because some people have certain struggles than others. So that's what I usually like to also focus on.
Yeah, definitely. Once you take the focus off yourself and put it on other people, it makes it a lot easier. Um, you know, we are in the service business, right? We're servicing people. We're in a solution based, mindset where people are coming to us with problems. So you got to remember that, right? And stop thinking so transactional. Once you start to get into a really transactional mindset, you'll find yourself going into the cycle even quicker. And really, you gotta, take a step back and realize what people are really coming to you for. And that in itself will humble you. You are the solution provider. They're coming to you for help, and you got to remember that. Don't keep it. That whole thought of just this is another closing or another paycheck. Once you start doing that, I mean, you go into a vicious cycle, and it's really hard to break out of that.
That's so true. So true. Was there anything that you wanted to add to this today, Sharif? I know like this is really important topic, and we can take it in so many different directions. And I think there's just going to be like a new series that we're going to touch on once a week about what agents do wrong on consistent basis. And I think this is one of the first ones that we wanted to talk about today.
No, definitely, just stay coachable, right? Remember your daily activities, and that'll keep you rooted. That's really what you want to do is just kind of, just have some good roots and just plant a good foundation. So just remember, just try to stay out of, just being on that high horse. Things are going to get great. So things will go well, but stay humble about it, because they can change at any given time. I can tell you that personally. So that's really the only thing I'd really want to add to this one.
I love that. Thanks again, Sharif, for jumping on the podcast today. And guys, if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.